Hello, everyone. Welcome to Providence Youth Ministry's Suicide Prevention Training. My name is Ben Lynch, and I am the youth pastor at Providence Church of Westchester, and I will be guiding you through this suicide prevention training. What we hope to accomplish in this training is to equip you to be unafraid of the topic of suicide and to be able to aid someone who is struggling with thoughts of suicide. You are on the front lines of the lives of middle and high school students and youth of all kinds. And so what we hope to do is we hope to give you tools to help you be unafraid of engaging in this topic with young people. We know you're not counselors, but we hope that the things in this training help. So some initial facts about suicide. I'm not going to read through all of these. I am simply going to read through the ones that are bolded. Studies show that asking someone if they're thinking about suicide will not put the idea into their head or push them into action. I know that at the beginning of working with youth that I was scared to ask questions about suicide because I thought it would put the idea into their head, but studies just don't show that. And inviting people to talk about suicide reduces stigma, lowers anxiety, and opens communication. And again, as we move on, you can pause this video at any time to read through all of the different data points. Some more facts. Most people in suicidal crisis show signs that they are thinking about death and communicate their distress prior to ever acting on their thoughts. So this is really important because most people who are thinking about suicide do not actually want to commit suicide, but they feel desperate enough to commit suicide. So if someone is showing signs of committing suicide, that's a really good thing because then they're asking for help. Obviously, it's not a good thing because they're wanting to commit suicide, but it's a good thing that they're showing signs and seeking help. And all communication about suicide must be taken seriously, no matter how many times it's been communicated about. We're going to talk through some risk factors around suicide. Previous suicide attempts is an obvious risk factor. Talking about suicide or having a plan of suicide, being preoccupied with death and dying, depression, alcohol and or drug use, attempted or completed suicide by a friend or family member, being the victim of physical or sexual abuse, assault, or bullying, and experiencing trauma or a traumatic event. And in those risk factors or risk events, there are some behavioral cues to pay attention to. If someone is taking necessary risks, they have unexplained anger, displaying dramatic mood changes, sadness for no reason, self-destructive acts, perfectionism, seeking access to the means to commit suicide, giving away prized possessions, and sudden interest or disinterest in religion are all cues that, on the one hand, could just be a teenager being a teenager, but it could also be that someone is thinking about committing suicide. And you're in close enough relationship with children to know that if things are going on in their life, that they will usually talk to you about them and bring those types of things up. So some direct verbal cues to pay attention to. I've decided to kill myself. I wish I were dead. I'm going to commit suicide. I'm going to end it all. If X doesn't happen, I'll kill myself. Those are all direct verbal cues. Some indirect verbal cues could sound like, I just want out. I won't be around much longer. Who cares if I'm dead anyway? My family would be better off without me. I'm tired of life. I just can't go on. And some other just basic potential cues: withdrawing from family, friends, social activities, recent disappointment or rejection, physical symptoms, drastic eating changes, changes in sleep patterns, increased apathy, displaying hopelessness, or inability to concentrate or make decisions. And again, basically, if something hard is going on in a kid's life these days, you want to pay attention to them and make sure they're not considering suicide. So the most recognized method of suicide prevention is called QPR. It's a play off of CPR. It stands for question, persuade, refer. It is not intended to be a form of counseling or treatment, but it is designed to recognize warning signs and refer. And it is also intended to offer hope. Some things to say to begin a conversation in question, persuade, refer in the questioning part. What are you experiencing? What are you feeling? How long have you been feeling like this? I'm concerned about you, so on and so forth. But at the In the question, if you think somebody is thinking about committing suicide, you'll eventually need to ask the question, which is, are you thinking about killing yourself? I put one variation on that, which is, you look pretty miserable. I wonder if you were having thoughts of suicide. And it's really important that if you can ask this question, to find someone who can. If the answer is yes to that question, if I'm thinking about committing suicide or killing myself, you need to ask if they have a plan. Because if they don't have a plan, that's good because they haven't gone that far down that thought train. But if they have developed a plan, then that's a lot more concerning. Some tips for asking the question: if you're in doubt, don't wait, ask. If the person is reluctant, be persistent. Talk to the person in private and allow yourself plenty of time for the person to talk freely. And if you go into a conversation knowing that it will be about suicide, then have some resources handy along with you, and you can read those resources there. The second piece of QPR is persuade. The way that you would persuade is to first listen, giving them your full attention. Try to be calm and non-judgmental. Offer hope and that there is a way out. And remember, suicide isn't necessarily the problem. It's actually a perceived solution to ending that person's pain. And so the more calm you can be and composed, the calmer it will help that person be as they're trying to work through this issue. Moving on to some questions that you can ask them in persuading as they're telling you about what's going on in their life. Will you go with me to get help? Will you let me get you help? Will you promise me not to kill yourself until we found some help? And that would move us into them accepting help and being able to refer them to help. So while you're referring them to help, remember that suicidal people often believe they cannot be helped, so you may have to take the reins in helping them. The best referral involves taking the person directly to someone who can help, and the next best referral is getting a commitment from them to accept help and then make the arrangements to get that help. Remember, any willingness to accept help is a good outcome. If you're in a conversation with someone and you feel like you're a little over your head, here are some helpful resources. You can text HOME to 741-741, and you can call the crisis hotline 988. Again, that's if you're with someone thinking about committing suicide. You can text or call this number to get help from a professional. If someone is very willing to go seek counseling, you can call the Peacemaker Center. And Prov does sponsor someone's first 3 counseling if they need monetary help. And sometimes somebody's in a bad enough situation that we simply need to call 911 and get them committed to a hospital. So again, that was QPR. That was the recognized method that we take you through. Again, it's not intended to be a form of counseling or treatment, but it is designed to recognize warning signs and refer, and it is intended to offer hope. At the bottom line, again, remember, you're not counselors, but you are the front lines in relationship with teenagers, middle schoolers, high schoolers. So remember that our vision is that we will, through relationships, come alongside young people in their journey of faith with Christ. So in the relationship that you have with students, some of them may at some point struggle with suicidal ideation. And that is the moment where Jesus allows you to step into their story, into their faith journey, and offer them hope. Thanks a lot, guys. I really hope this training is helpful. Bye-bye.